Thank you everyone for joining tonight's session of Product.ph. So really happy that you're able to make it tonight. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, Product.ph is a community where we're trying to help connect product managers and would-be product managers to each other and to industry leaders such as our panel tonight. We are trying to build within Product.ph the discipline of product management in the Philippines by providing access to skills development, better opportunities, and a worldwide network of product experts and teachers and leaders, so that we can learn from each other and build world-class products from here in the Philippines. All right, so without further ado, we'll kick off tonight's session. So I think tonight's session is really interesting because we're tackling something that has become relevant over the past couple of days. So as many of you know, we've come back to at least in Metro Manila, modified ECQ, and so we're still in the middle of this of this long battle with COVID-19. So for tonight's session, we invited a couple of guests who come from different teams who built digital solutions, digital products to help the country respond and adapt and cope with the COVID-19 pandemic. So what I'll do is I'll introduce each one. So maybe we can start off with Jezza, ladies first. Jezza, maybe you can introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit about the organization you represent.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Jezza Diaz. I'm a software engineer by profession. I've been in the tech industry for more than 4 years now. I'm highly interested in seeing the high-level and low-level overview of applications, and it's always great seeing the end-to-end development cycle. Apart from that, I've been an active volunteer in different communities, especially DevCon Philippines and DevCon Kids. And yes, recently I was one of the active project manager volunteers in the DCTx. So today I represent RapidPass.
All right, great. So and also with us is Miguel. Miguel, can you introduce yourself as well?
Hi, my name is Miguel. I'm a business analyst by day, but at night and long nights, I worked along with Jezza for DCTx, which is the Developers Connect organization, where we formed a task group to create technologies similarly to not just RapidPass, but then but I've been involved with multiple projects here in DCTx. And yeah, here to talk about RapidPass and other projects that I've been involved with DCTx.
All right, great. And so we'll talk a bit about DCTx later, but let me introduce our next guest, this time representing the Philippine Red Cross. Gio, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Gio. Actually, I had wanted some of our engineers and product guys to actually speak for the group, but you know, the engineers and no, they're a bit shy. So ako yung pinaka makapal mukha. So that's why I'm here. So yeah, I've been in the tech industry for quite a while, from software, venture capital, mobile. I used to work with Chica before, and we sold Chica to Smart, and I led Smart's mobile internet business, and then went back to startups. Even worked with Jan at some point in history. So with just dealing with technology, but with primary focus on how we can apply technology to help the Philippines. So recently when the pandemic came about, instead of pitching and being angry at the inefficiency of the government, we decided to kind of like do something about it. So I donned on my volunteer hat. I used to be a Red Cross volunteer back in Ondoy, going through the flood, saving, giving food to people stranded. But this time, since ECQ we can only do with our fingers and keyboard. So that's what we did. So I got together with some folks in Chica and folks in Voxp and some other volunteers as well, and we launched a contact tracing app for the Red Cross, which is probably the only contact tracing that works here in the Philippines.
All right, great.
Yeah.
All right. So, and then last but not least, we also have Johan. Johan, can you talk a little bit about your organization and your project?
Yeah. So thanks for having me. So tonight I'm representing the university. It's a mouthful actually. UPPAF Respond. So University of the Philippines Public Administration Research and Extension Services. UPPAF Respond is basically one of the grant arms of USAID. They asked us consultants to build an application to try and alleviate problems with supply chain and broken logistics chains around the country. So we built the Scan mobile app as well as the reporting dashboards. That's basically what supply chain companies and logistics service providers are using to report issues when they're shipping goods from farm to Manila or to farm to market, trying to get through checkpoints that typically aren't coordinated across the nation. So yeah, that's basically the major project that we've launched back in May. It's actually NEDA that spearheaded all of the design, the focus groups, and basically the vision of the whole project. We believe it's something that's core to trying to move goods effectively across the country. We've seen that a lot earlier on in the lockdown, April, May. Not so much now. We've opened up a lot of our ports, a lot of our borders, city borders. But yeah, so that's basically the project that I'm representing today. I'm also a part of two startups. One sorely focused on supply chain software, transport management, so that's Insight. And then the other one is a distribution company heavily enabled on tech. That's Pelago.
All right, great. Okay. So all of you are involved in very interesting projects, and they were projects, but a lot of them have really become products, right? So and for a while, so when we were planning this event, I was going to ask like the relevance of these products, given that a lot of the products you've worked on were done during the height of the lockdown. But now with the lockdown returning, and it seems like this will be a long, drawn out battle against COVID-19. I wanted to kind of drill into like what was the problem you were trying to solve with the product that your team had built. So maybe we can start off with Gio. So Gio, I think contact tracing is something a lot of people are aware of, and there's a lot of similar products internationally. But what makes RC143 unique?
So yeah, before I talk about contact tracing, the evolution really was first was really to the desire to at the start of the pandemic, a lot of people don't know what's happening. So we wanted to kind of like see that really the desire to protect yourself from risk of being infected and protect your family. So that was sort of like the first motivation. But the team had some technology patents as well as things they've been working on with Bluetooth technology and making that work and addressing all the problems in some other use case. So the team, was able to fashion contact tracing that's effective in a way that it solved a lot of these technical problems that plague other contact tracing applications from other countries. So that actually gave us the I guess the advantage of being able to solve, because of some history and use cases and projects that the team have worked on in different aspects, different individuals from the team have worked on, and contributing that to this project, we're able to really solve that problem, from the get-go. So like I said, it's probably one of the few contact tracing applications that's actually working.
Right. And at a very high level, like, can you talk about like what makes you, because I mean, there are other similar kind of products that were launched during the height of the lockdowns. But why do you say that you're the only kind of effective contact tracing solution for the Philippines? What makes it like unique, or what's the?
So there's a couple of things. Some apps have chosen to just support one type of technology. For example, just location and GPS. Some others, for example, the Google, Apple implementation of that used to be, they call it contact tracing, but now it's risk notification, because they, instead of contact tracing, they're really more notifying you of your risk of having been in contact with someone, and they rely on self-reporting. We took a different route from the technology side, as well as on how we because ours is not just contact tracing. Contact tracing is one feature, but we also have other features, like the ability to talk to contact Red Cross, talk to healthcare providers, and stuff like that. And so two tasks that we've done differently. One is we've used multiple technologies. So we use GPS, we use Bluetooth, as well as other patented technologies that's been developed by some members of the team to actually solve the technical problems that I spoke about. The other one is also we try to integrate that with the whole ecosystem of a pandemic response. So it's not just contact tracing is important, okay? Contact tracing has to work with testing. So we're with Red Cross as the sponsor and actually owner of the app, and Red Cross also doing a majority of the testing that's happening in the Philippines, the capacity of testing, allows us to be able to actually have a more effective solution, because to be able to actually determine contact, you have to have a diagnosis first. And the diagnosis is actually based on the gold standard, which is the RT-PCR test. Some contact tracing out there relies on self-reporting, which is not very, very accurate, because you could say, hey, I like the Google, Apple actually relies on you reporting that you have it. So we're in the context of the Philippines, I don't think anyone will voluntarily report that they have it. And we've in our experience, that's never happened. So we've opted to go for the a more centralized approach, as well as an approach that's linked to an official diagnosis, which is the RT-PCR. So those are a few things that differentiates us from other implementation of contact tracing. So it's we work in a chain. So I also mentioned that it's not just contact tracing. Once you have we have a direct channel to Red Cross. So if you're worried, or if you feel that you've been, if the app determined that you may have been in contact with someone who's positive, then you can actually contact the Red Cross to schedule you to be tested, or even be connected to health officials. So we kind of like try to connect those dots and not just do contact tracing per se.
Okay, all right, sounds great. And then Johan, in your case for Project Scan, maybe not a lot of people are aware of it, because this is really to kind of help out solve problems around the supply chain. Can you share more about what Project Scan is all about, and how it's helping with COVID response?
Right. So basically, what happened when a lot of cities locked down early in March and April. Obviously, the country was caught off guard, the world was caught off guard. A lot of our supply chain issues really got polarized. Truckers, for example, from Benguet, from Pampanga, from farms, couldn't go through and come into Manila to bring crops and vegetables. And I think you can imagine what happens when all of our supplies run out or aren't enough to distribute across the population. I think second problem that really aggravated the supply chain issue across the industries were not a lot of coordination across LGUs. So national government, IATF, rightly in their best of decisions, tried to lock down as many cities as possible, but then there weren't really any coordination across which type of vehicles or cargo could go through, like cross between city to city, food, crops, medical equipment, even repair equipment for vehicles that actually support health practitioners. So those are all hampered. Regular goods that actually needed to be delivered to manufacturing plants like P&G, Unilever, Nestle, for example, companies needed supplies, raw materials. They couldn't get those raw materials because the supplies were always getting stuck in checkpoints, or what we call now quarantine control points. So the IATF, the NEDA, basically said, okay, enough of this. We're going to have a way to find out what's happening in real time with our trucks and supplies movers. So they set out they talked with the UPPAF response team, and that basically spun up the idea around a mobile-based reporting system for truckers, logistics providers, even people who commute. You can't commute, or there's a problem trying to cross, or maybe there's no vehicles to use to commute. You could actually report that on the mobile app and say, yeah, there's a lot of problems here in my town. I can't even go to office or go buy stuff because there's no tricycles and there's no GPs. So there's a lot of there's probably what 3 or 4 different sub projects. Like for example, the delivery project that Insight did for Department of Agriculture that actually more kind of like shed a light on the supply chain issues, because that project, for example, for agriculture, tried to move goods, food from farm to Manila, but they couldn't do that effectively because all of the highways were blocked, all of the vehicles were choked up into checkpoints. So this is where kind of SCAN came in, so that NEDA and IATF could really see in basically in real time what was the problem on the roads, on the checkpoints, across the city borders, and then be able to call up the necessary department agencies to tell them, okay, yeah, coordinate and make sure that RapidPass works because you're not respecting the IATF card, or so on and so forth. Or, for example, to make sure that the certain government LGU would let food vehicles pass. But that's not so much the case now, that everybody's kind of aware to make sure that food and transport and essential goods must go through. Basically, that's the vision, though, of why SCAN and the dashboard was built.
So it's really all about making sure that bottlenecks in you kind of solve bottlenecks in the supply chain, make sure essential goods are moving across the supply chain. Is that correct?
Right. Now,
all right, great.
NEDA has actually spawned that up to a much larger, broader scope right now. But yeah, we can talk about that later on in the call.
All right. Okay. So whereas Project SCAN was around kind of solving bottlenecks in the supply chain, RapidPass, which I think a lot of people are kind of know a little bit about RapidPass. It's really about kind of helping people move more quickly through checkpoints. Jezza, can you share more about what RapidPass is all about and how it came about?
Yeah, so RapidPass was formed because they have found out that there were congestions in checkpoints in NCR, and with this is causing a delay in the delivery of the food and other priority vehicles. So RapidPass, we're trying to solve here is to automate the applications of our frontliners, and or what we call by that time is APOR. So APOR stands for authorized persons outside residence. So we are with that solution. We are trying to minimize the contact to contact, person to person contact, and minimizing the risk of our frontliners to go outside just to apply for applications, right? So on the other hand, we want to help as well our checkpoint personnel. So they were the one using our checkpoint app under RapidPass system. So they were scanning the QR. So once the QR is scanned, then that's once the QR is scanned, then the checkpoint app display will display in the app. It says entry is approved, and then once that entry is approved, and that's it. Off you go. You can easily pass the checkpoint. Yeah.
So what you're saying is RapidPass is actually parang, different products that work together. So there's the checkpoint app. You mentioned the checkpoint app,
Yes.
and there's
Yes.
an app for appors or persons outside of residence
Yes.
to apply for a RapidPass.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And this was created by a group of volunteers, right? By DCTx?
Yes, by DCTx. DCTx, which is formed under DevCon. Because DevCon believes in promoting the IT talent of Filipinos. Yeah.
Right. So speaking of volunteers, so not a lot of people might know this, but so RapidPass is the most, I guess, the most famous product that came out of DCTx. But there are actually a lot of other initiatives. So Miguel, you're also part of the DCTx community, right?
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about how you got involved in DCTx and maybe a little bit about some of the public products or projects that came out of DCTx outside of RapidPass?
Okay, so with how I found out about DCTx is that one day I heard that Jezza was already involved with DevCon, and since we're also coworkers, I also found out at the same time that there was this initiative called DCTx. We didn't know what to expect. We just volunteered around the similar at the same time. So once we volunteered over there, that's when we found out about RapidPass. It was the first initiative that came out of DCTx, and it wasn't the last. So with under DCTx, there was about 4 projects that was initiated. So there was RapidPass, which came out, and then we also tried to issue our own contact tracing app, which was it's one of the contact tracing apps, yeah. And there was Relief Agad, which is an app that tried to do more on social amelioration and how to disperse cash across the people who needed the financial assistance. And then the last one, which I was more involved with, was called Flag, which is a donation delivery solution that aimed to distribute and to collate and organize all of the donations across the Philippines, and make sure that even if the OCD can actually deliver. While there was 4 active projects, the ones that are currently live are still RapidPass, Relief Agad, and the Trace COVID contact tracing app.
Mm-hmm. So I find it fascinating, and one of the reasons why we did the session is the fact that for a lot of these parang products, it was really built by a team of volunteers, and especially in the case of these DCTx, you guys did it at scale. You guys were able to not just develop one product, but multiple products, one after the other, almost at the same time. So Miguel, I'm kind of fascinated. Like, why did you volunteer in particular? And from from your from the teams you worked with, what was the motivation?
So my personal motivation was that when I was living current in Manila while all of this COVID, that when the beginning parts of the COVID happened, and once it became a little bit more serious, and we went into our first quarantine, I had to fly back to school, and I stayed here for a while, and I felt like there was something that I can do to to make things faster, or even if I'm not like very familiar with medicine, or I'm not very understanding of what COVID actually is. I believe that there was something that I could do better to make things a little bit easier um, on the Philippines. So that's kind of the personal motivation on joining. And I guess I would like to hope that the team who volunteered shared that same idea of wanting to contribute in their ways that they could. And the one of the biggest driving things is that since DCTx was a response team that came out of DevCon, there was a lot of already tech experience, a lot of inspired people. So in terms of gathering the actual volunteers, the actual people, we actually got a lot of them slowly face to face. In about like 2 or 3 weeks, we've gathered around at most at our highest point, we had around 1,000 volunteers and over 46 different teams, and all of them were all volunteers, and they were all willing to help out the Philippines in making these solutions.
All right, and I find that fascinating. Like, so for many of the attendees here, they're part of product teams. They develop product, and I think everyone would agree na like building a product and launching out there takes a lot of effort. But how and doing it with mga parang as an employee, where you're compensated and all of that is difficult enough. But I'm just fascinated. I'm just wondering, like, how difficult was it to kind of pull in volunteers who were not compensated, who had different schedules and all of that. How you guys were able to do it. And for that, I want to ask Jezza. So Jezza, so full disclosure, I was also a volunteer of DCTx. I worked under
Yes.
Jezza, and Jezza was a force of nature. Jezza, how were you able to do it? How were you able to launch RapidPass with a group of volunteers?
Yeah, I was working with John for such a long time then. Thank you so much, John, for being part of our team. So I would say our biggest why.
Jezza was my boss.
No, actually. So I would say our biggest why that time is to really support our frontliners and to provide a digital solution to the government. But honestly, I need to say that at the start, I was really hesitant joining the project. Maybe Miguel can actually attest to that. But because I saw this lockdown as opportunity for me to lie low, take a break, binge watch Netflix. But when Miguel was insisting me to join the DCTx call, okay, I'll try it out. So I joined the DCTx call, and from there I was so inspired by so many because there were a lot of volunteers in the call, and they were so passionate to deliver this project. And I remember that time. So I remember the time when I asked also the same question to one of our volunteers. I asked him, "Why are you doing this? Or why do you want to finish this product?" And his answer resonated with me is that this is the least thing I could do for our frontliners. And from there, it reminded me that we could help, and we could help the government in our own little way. So for us, it's tech. And from there, we actually joked it around, and we call ourselves the backliners. Yeah.
All right, great. Jessa, the other thing is you had to kind of in order to launch RapidPass, you also had to deal with multiple stakeholders, right? As the PM,
Yes.
you had to deal with the internal volunteers, but you also had to interface with government stakeholders, the law enforcement, etc. What was that experience like, managing multiple stakeholders like that?
Yeah, it was actually really hard that time because, as you all know, I have also my day job, and they were contacting me in the morning, but they were very much understanding naman na we're all volunteers and we got work, so they're also adjusting at the same time. So we're putting our calls at night. So yeah, I think it was a great experience as well, working with the government, and we found a perfect balance to work it out as this is a volunteer organization.
All right, great. So you were able to I remember you speaking to mga senior officials at IITF and all of that. So
Yeah.
okay, so Gio, so in your case, sa RC143, like speed to market is critical for your particular product, right? You had to get it out there for it to be effective. Uh, Tell us what it was like launching a product so quickly in order to be relevant. How was that experience like?
Yeah, before I answer that, John, I just wanted to kind of like, because I think I didn't do a good job in kind of like framing the problem of why contact tracing is actually important. Because working with this, I've already assumed that everyone understood what contact tracing is. So before I answer that question, let me just kind of like do a brief about why contact tracing is important. In a pandemic response, especially with such a virulent and infectious disease, once someone is actually a positive case or someone's infected, you have to be able to identify the people that they've been in contact with and the places that they've been in contact with, and do something with those contacts. Either you further investigate so that you determine whether they need testing, they have symptoms, they need testing, or whether they need to be isolated or treated. No, and this is important because you have to, for example, if someone's positive and they've been in contact with someone and they're able to pass the virus to that person has to be isolated and tested before they infect other people. So there's a couple of, like, the problem that we're trying to solve here is really to stop the spread of disease, and contact tracing is not a new thing. I mean, it's a gold standard in how CDC, all other countries actually fight diseases, in Africa or wherever that is. But what tech does is it shortens the time for it to because before contact tracing you have to call people, investigate and all that, and that takes time. But with a virus like this that spreads so fast, the time window is really critical. So tech helps that. We augment the actual contact tracing with tech. So I just want to kind of like make that clear because there's a time urgency with this, and this is a good segue too, because we actually had to launch the product really fast. Now, I think we are lucky because the team that's been involved, we've been working together, in past companies, so we kind of knew each other. That's one thing. Two, the team that's also been here has been a lot of the people are from Chica, and in Chica we had this thing called UPPAF. Okay, and UPPAF, it's sort of like agile, but like a Filipino agile. So UPPAF is really about like just getting it done. Okay, and so the team has been in this the culture is ingrained in this culture of just like getting it off the market, just it's getting it off done. It's not going to be perfect the whole time, but but we will always be improving it. So it's really about getting the product out there. So I think that's the factor that got the team behind RC143. That's one factor, is having that culture of just getting things done, and this Filipino style agile mentality. The other thing also is just having like brilliant engineers and brilliant product people involved in the project. And the third is really that motivation, because like I said, it's, you know, a lot of us are not here for the money or for whatever, but it's about helping. And I think that also drives the passion within the organization. At least I see that in the engineers that I've worked with here, in the product people, in the biz dev guys. I mean, there's and it's not just product, especially with this product, that you actually have to work with other stakeholders like NGOs, the Red Cross, government agencies, IATF, and all that stuff. So there's different, not just engineers, not just developers, not just product people, but different people in the organization, and you can really see the passion in these people, and this willingness to help, which I think my experience in you know, working with product teams, it's such a big difference in terms of that. So there's this passion, this motivation to help is one big factor as well. So I think these are like the factors that allow the team to launch a product really quickly. And the other thing as well, which I mentioned earlier, was because some of the team members have worked in similar technologies, different use cases, and, you know, just being creative about it and adapting it to this particular problem that we're trying to solve. So that also helped a lot, because we didn't have to kind of like start from scratch. So I think those are the number of factors that allow the team to get this product off the ground right away.
Okay, so it sounds like, I mean, you had a team that was motivated to solve a very urgent problem, a very urgent need. It sounds like you have a very talented and very passionate team, and I think you benefited from having a team that, you know, very experienced in this domain, this space, in this area, and then it sounds like you guys are, a lot of you are from Chica, so you benefited from having, you know, that experience of having worked with each other before. So I think that helped you a lot to launch this product very quickly. Johan, in your case, did you enjoy the same kind of I guess advantage, or I guess the same kind of team composition? Tell us more about your team in Project Scan.
Well, I wouldn't say that all of the team members that we've worked with have worked together in the past. In fact, actually, it was I would say the assembly of the team was very quick. Quick in the sense that we got to meet the team from UPPAF, met the guys from Insight, Relly, and the development team. And basically, we had to just take it from there, understand each other's sentiments, them guiding us on what to do in terms of a technical scope, and then giving them back what we think should be the fastest way to build the solution to their problems. So it was basically like getting to know the people that we're working with in the other team, at the same time building the solution and understanding the problem, all in parallel, all happening in parallel. And then while that's happening, the experience that I actually like, the experience that best describes the event, was basically talking with the stakeholders in government. A lot of that in NEDA and IATF, and understanding how they thought, how fast they moved, what decisions they took, what considerations they made to make those decisions, and then how those things guided us to build the product. Because we couldn't build it in a vacuum. The initial designs we made were really off the charts. We were assuming in a vacuum that everybody would click a button or flip a switch or like easily understand that screen that we built on that mobile app. It wasn't the case. So we had to revise, change a lot. And it was a really tough learning experience, but at the same time, very quick. And I think the team I commend the team from from UPPAF, having not been a core tech team, they actually caught on really quick. And very impressive guys. The decision makers at NEDA and IATF. It's actually quite surprising how fast they caught on. How fast they understood the solution, and then how relevant their feedback was to make the solution better. So, in fact, I would say the entire team was made up of the government stakeholders, the UP team, and us as private sector consultants.
Johan, I'm curious about like because you're an experienced product person. I assume you probably led the requirements gathering and kind of working through the iterations of the product. What did you do differently in this particular case versus how you did things in the past products you worked on? How was this different? Given that there was a time pressure to launch it, you had multiple stakeholders. What did you do differently? How did you manage requirements and stakeholders differently in this particular case?
One word: shell shock. It's I think Gio and Jezza and everybody else in this room would probably have said the same thing had they just one word to describe it. But trying to build spec ideally in your tech or your product management head, and trying to translate that into PowerPoint slides that your stakeholders understand when they're actually inundated with government issues. They're being called left and right. They're across the table from you, and then somebody taps on their shoulder, having to answer them. That's a challenge for both us and them. That's one of the biggest challenges that we had was getting them to focus on, hey, here's what we're doing right now. You got to take a look at this. Give us 2 minutes, and then we'll be out of your hair, and then we'll build the solution, and then we'll come back after we have another iteration. That's one of the things that you don't really incorporate. You and I have been incorporate for quite a long time. We always have this luxury of going through the motions of the product management ladder.
Doing customer research,
doing customer research.
You didn't have
that. Our customer research was, I'm assuming Gio's customer research was launching the app. And RapidPass, well, don't get me that was one of we would see a lot of incidents being reported on Scan that actually talked about RapidPass and IATF cards. So, I mean, in a bad and a good light, but they would say like the RapidPass is working, but the police aren't respecting it. Or they would say, I have a valid IATF card, but MMDA is not understanding why I can't go through. So those things is actually your customer feedback. And that's actually the second thing that we learned the hard way. But other than that, I think what did I do differently? I mean, we just had to adjust because frankly, Jan, I think you don't have a word for it, but you have a gut feel of how to actually shoot from the hip when you're actually there, and you've got experience with that skill set of being a product owner, of being a product manager. You crunch all of that, take out all of the mess, the steps that you don't need, and then you actually all are able to do things.
So parang so it's like ready fire aim.
By the way, there's one thing that I must highlight to all of us here. There is this one thing in DICT called vulnerability assessment and penetration testing that we all forgot while we were building this stuff. I see somebody laughing there because you probably got hit, huh, Miguel?
Yeah. So people who are very well versed with that is Miguel and Jezza. So they had very high they had to work. They worked on very high profile projects with RapidPass and talking. So Johan mentioned about iterating quickly and all of that. So Jezza, how did you manage that? Like, I know you. I mean, RapidPass went through several iterations. How did you get the team to focus on to do the most important things first? What did you do?
Well, first and foremost, we tried to list down all the core features that we need to deliver. So from there, we break down what are the core features and what are the nice to have features, because while we were building the application, there are a lot of suggestions. There are a lot of there are a lot of wants from the stakeholders. But given the time, we really have to cut down and prioritize what are really the essentials that need to deliver and stick to our goals, which is to really automate the applications and to speed up the inspection. Yeah, that's it.
So you identified the must-haves, the essential features, and
Yes.
you drove the team to focus on that first.
Yes, that's right.
And then how did you one of the things that I also find fascinating about RapidPass, like when it was launched, obviously there were like mga growing pains, mga hiccups. How were you able to collect feedback and parang iterate to and respond to those feedback? How did you do it in the RapidPass team?
Well,
Mga issues, how did you manage issues?
Well, yeah, so we've managed to address those issues by setting up first a customer support team. We realized that it's very important once you launch a project. So once you launch a project that is being used nationwide. So from there, we realized that, yeah, there should be a support team that would really answer all their questions and concerns. And from there, we also addressed that concern with the DACT. We've worked together with the DACT as well to concern those concerns, because some of the questions are really out of this world, and we as a volunteer, we're not really involved in the government decisions. So yeah, I think we just need to we identified that we still need their help to really help us to answer those decisions that really not within our scope anymore.
Okay, so from day one, it sounds like you were really already thinking about what to do post go live. So you were already thinking about how this will be kind of supported. So you mentioned you had a team of volunteers doing customer support and all of that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. And for you, Miguel, you were very much involved in, I think, at least 2 projects, right? With DCTx, and one was able to launch, and I think the other wasn't able to launch. What were the learnings you were able to get from launching a product and from not launching a product?
Okay, so for
From the
launching
success
a
and the
product,
failure.
yeah, from the successes and failures. So with my day job, I'm usually a business analyst. So when looking at successes from a project management standpoint, there was a lot of learnings that I actually received, like when dealing with infrastructure or when dealing with customer support. These aren't things that are very apparent in my current experiences. So like dealing with how to deal with angry customers or how to deal with different stakeholders that have different expectations. These are the things that we get to learn in when we were doing RapidPass. It's like one of the biggest challenges, just in a tech perspective, but in a general perspective, was defining who are the approved people. Like even that the number of people who are allowed to get a RapidPass, that was even to develop that. It's just a simple here's a list of names, but in practice, not even the people themselves knew if they were liable or if they were allowed to get that, because for example, there's priests doing funerals are allowed, but priests in general sometimes are not allowed. So sometimes there was a little bit of gray areas, and we had to try to address the concerns accordingly.
All
For
right.
a project that didn't, yeah.
And then for the one that didn't launch, what was your learning there? What was your insight there?
For the project that it didn't launch, when we first started, there was a lot of momentum. Everybody had really great ideas, and everybody was very active, and we did a great job. We were very close to the end of releasing the product, actually, It's just that sometimes there are some things that are outside of your control. That's just one of the biggest things that you have to recognize, that you don't. It was mentioned before that you don't build products in a vacuum. So when we were building products, sometimes there are outside forces that may influence the outcome of the actual release of a product, and that sometimes that does cause products not to launch.
Yeah. So those things happen, right? So it's things outside of the team's control. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna pause for a little bit because there's a lot of questions coming into Slido. So I think it'll be good to kind of look at ask some of the questions here. So for those of you who are in the call, I think Yana, you're flashing on screen, right? The how to get to Slido. So just go to Slido, and then you can ask your own question or vote for a question that somebody else has already asked, so that it will go higher in the queue. Okay. So let me kind of maybe ask the panel one of the questions here. So anonymous. Okay. So please, if you want, please post your name. Okay. So somebody asked, as product managers, were there certain features or functionalities that had conflict, or you had to defend or go against what the organization wanted or what the stakeholders wanted? Maybe Johan, you want to tackle that question?
Wow. That's fun. It
What
actually,
did you do?
yeah, it actually brings back memories of one very big company that we worked with, where you usually got that as a as an issue. So I think there were a couple of features that we wanted as a team to build and into the reporting and the dashboard at the portal, into Scan in general, that really didn't make it because one, we kind of thought as the builders, we kind of thought it made sense at that time, but as we were trying to get a feel of how it would be executed on the field, how it would be launched, how it would be accepted by the supply chain industries, it made more sense that we would cause a bit more problems than we would actually solve by releasing that feature in the app. I cannot be too specific because that feature would have actually pointed a finger squarely at one agency, and then it wouldn't have really fixed that problem for everybody else. So yeah, to say the least, that was a reporting function that would say, hey, I need help, and this agency is causing the issues that I need help on.
So did you kind of just roll over and say, okay, yes, sir, I will follow, or what did you do?
Well, I actually pushed a couple of times, and then I actually sneaked it in after I removed it from the slide.
Okay.
Well, Dan, you know me, so we've done that a few times already. But yes.
So what would be your advice, not what you would do? For those of you, I guess the question is like, for those of us who need to manage stakeholders, what would be how do you manage stakeholders, especially when you think what they're saying is not necessarily the right thing to do?
Okay. Well, think of it this way. I think we have to all start from. I'm a bit more mature now than we were back then when we were kids. We have to all be humble enough to realize that we're designing this product, but we don't actually own it, even if we're called product owners. We're designing it for the people that we're working with. So at the end of the day, even if I were really passionate about it because I had actual experience with that feature that I really, really needed it personally, I couldn't really push it beyond the point that made sense. And I had to, it's not really rolling over, but actually seeing the merit in your stakeholders' decision and saying, nope, that doesn't go in, doesn't make sense. I don't have to explain everything from you from A to Z right now, but it doesn't make sense. So, and it kind of takes a bit off your ego as a product owner to try and roll over that way.
Okay, all right. Okay, for Gio, one of our attendees is asking, when you say Filipino Agile, how is that different from standard Agile?
That's funny. Actually, yeah, it's really funny and very coincidental as well because I remember we've been talking back in Chica. You know, there's this we always say about UPPAF, and back then we were uh, Globe and Smart were our biggest customers because we worked through them. Our messenger and our content business worked through the telcos, and there was such a culture clash because we as a startup we move fast. The telcos have their own processes, but we always been talking about UPA, and we did talk about agile then. I don't think even I didn't know about agile at that time. But looking back, there's so many similarities between agile and when we say UPA. That's why I said it's a Filipino agile, not because it's different. It's just that it kind of like evolved without a lot of us actually knowing what agile is, but it had the same kind of characteristics we favored communication over documentation, like just brainstorming, doing that, although we do have to do documentation because of the telcos, as I said. We favored launching the software out there instead of making that perfect. And we favored talking to the customers, talking to the users, and all that. Really similar. It's not different. It's just that when we started, we didn't start knowing what agile was. We actually started because that was the culture, and it so happened that it was an agile. It kind of coincide with agile. That's why I termed it Filipino agile, because it kind of developed on its own in Chica back then.
Okay. All right. Okay. I think the next one is from Yalden. Yalden. Okay. Yalden is a frequent attendee of Product.ph. He's a community leader for Agile Philippines. So I think, Miguel, you can answer this. So Yalden asks, I think trust plays a huge factor in a crisis where process and structure are not in place. How is it like, especially with the team and the government stakeholders? So in DCTx, what was it like?
So if I got the question correctly, it's asking about how is it working with the government and how it was working with disjointed teams. Did I capture the question correctly?
Yeah, I think yes, especially because diba, in a crisis, trust plays a huge factor. But in DCTx, and especially with a high profile project like RapidPass, you have volunteers, people who don't know each other, haven't met before. So how can you have trust? And then also you were working with government and stakeholders, external stakeholders. How did you get their trust and so on? So how was it like? What was your experience like?
Okay, so for the initial stakes parts of the project, when we first got in, nobody kind of really knew anybody. It's a bunch of passionate people just wanted to do thing a little bit bigger than themselves. So once the passion has slowly morphed into productivity, we started to form more structured groups like the project management teams. So then the project management teams formed their relationships with their developers, with their QA teams, with even the security testing teams, the VAPT testers. And there was also a dedicated team that would have to specifically work with the government. So like our own government relations team. So we didn't have our actual developers, or we wouldn't want to put them in the face of the governments all the time, because it's best to let the developers do what they do best, which is to make really, really groundbreaking products with the speed that we needed to get with, especially for this pandemic.
How did you get like the volunteers like to actually work as a team, to trust each other and depend on each other, to delegate to each other? How was that process like? Did it take a long time? Was it a struggle, or did it happen very quickly? What was it like?
So one of the challenges actually with that was actually a big challenge in when working with these projects. So one of the things that we had to do is we had to identify and we had to recognize who are the lead developers, or who are the seniors among the rest. So these are the people who can help guide other people, who can help guide the new volunteers. Because when on how we were getting volunteers, we were just asking on Facebook, or we were just asking from former volunteers of DevCon, who are the people who wanted to help in this pandemic. So we got ranges from people who worked for about 20 or 30 years as developers, and we've gotten people who were fresh from college or still even studying college. So everyone was welcome to try it and help, and everyone was willing to work with each other, because in the end of the day, we all knew that none of even the most senior volunteers and down to the fresh grads weren't getting paid. So we were all doing it for the sake of building and for the sake of making the Philippines a little bit better.
All right. So like parang doing something like you said, bigger than themselves, right? Kind of made people work together. Okay. This is for, I guess, Jezza, maybe you can answer two questions. So for especially in your experience with RapidPass, how was it conceptualized? Where did the idea come from? Did it come from from DCTx, or did it come from government? Where did the idea of RapidPass come from?
Okay, so based from the story of our founder in DevCon, the concept was originated because they have seen the congested traffics in NCR. Then they've reached out to Winston De Marillo, our DevCon founder. Then from there, Winston is actually the founder of DevCon Philippines as well. So it's easier to team up developers and a lot of volunteers to do the project. So from that request from the government, we all jumped in a call and discussed about it. Yes.
Okay. So Winston and the core group within DCTx saw this problem, and you decided to that you think that you guys can solve the problem. Then it was
Yes.
afterwards, right, that you reached out to government, to IATF.
Yes,
with the
yes,
proposal.
that's right. Yes.
Okay. All right. And then this is a good question for everyone. I think this is a very nice question. And this is for everyone to answer. What were your product success factors, and was your product able to meet the success factors? What were the metrics for product success, and do you think your product met those metrics or met those criteria for success? Maybe we can start with Johan.
Well,
Is Project Scan successful in your mind? How did you measure success?
Well, yeah, success is subjective. So basically, I wouldn't say it's a complete success in an adoption sense, because we had targets in our head that we kind of were expecting in terms of numbers of thousands of users, thousands of complaints coming in, and reports that would give us a lot more depth in the reporting and the types of issues that we would see. So in that sense, we wouldn't say it's a complete success, because we only had like I would say half of what we were expecting in terms of adoption and installs. On a technical level, it actually did what it meant to do. So people who knew about it could install it easily, could report incidents, upload videos and photos on their reports. So on a technical scale, if you're looking at, is it doing its job as it's intended to do in terms of spec functionalities and what your reference for saying a success was? Yeah, it did that. Was it going beyond that to be able to actually give you enough data to look at supply chain issues nationwide? It's not that at stage yet. And that's why the Supply Chain Management Association of the Philippines, NEDA, and IATF have these weekly e-fora to keep on drilling to people, to the supply chain industry, to the manufacturing industries, that they should report their issues. They should take a look at problems that are actually happening on their in their provinces, in their industry, on their neighborhood roads, and then get more people to report. So that's kind of the follow through that the UPPAF team, Supply Chain Management Association, and the other supply chain networks are doing right now.
Okay, all right. How about you, Jezza? Would you characterize RapidPass as a success? How did you define success for RapidPass? Jezza, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, definitely. I think it was really a great success since first and foremost, we have completed all the requirements and we have built the application in less than 3 months. And we have delivered the goal of the application, which is to really to automate the application and speed up the inspections and checkpoints. And I think it was a great success in general because the DCTx actually sparked the enthusiasm of Filipino developers to really help and be part of this combating, to be part of the solution in combating COVID-19. And I think the one of the highlights as well for me in doing this project a success is and highlighting the beauty of the teamwork that was greatly shown in doing in delivering this project. So yeah, so in essence, we've built the application, and at the same time, we've built friendship over Zoom.
John, you're on mute.
Sorry. Okay, so you're saying that not only is RapidPass a success, but the mission of DevCon as well was bringing volunteer technologists together was also a success. Miguel, do you share the same sentiment? Like, let's talking about DCTx in general and its mission to create a volunteer-based global community to develop digital solutions to combat COVID-19. In that regard, do you think DCTx was able to successfully do that?
And if you're asking about if we can develop technologies and if we can muster up a worldwide community in finding out ways to help COVID, I would say in that aspect, yes, that it would be a success. However, I'm a little bit more pessimistic when it comes to looking at how to define success in a product. Because building a product is just one step. The next step comes how to use it. So a lot of times after RapidPass got released, I got really a little bit frustrated and a little bit broken to see all these interesting scams. I mean, it's unique. It's thoughtful. It's creative. Like we saw that there was this one guy who was renting out a car with a RapidPass on it, and then that was going for about 3,000 a day. And then later on, we've been seeing that there are actual palenques, like these small fish markets that were selling counterfeit photocopied RapidPasses for like 300 pesos. So if we were to go with that, in terms of developing a product and releasing it, we've done that. And I think that in order to make it a success in terms of how we're impacting this pandemic, then we should also kind of be mindful on how our users are using it and how we ourselves are personally trying to combat by doing our social distancing, on how we should do contact tracing, or how we should be confident to declare if we're feeling sick. So these kinds of things are also factors that would need to be in play in order to address this pandemic.
All right. Okay. Gio, very relevant.
I'll answer that.
What you're trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it boils down to the why we built this and why all the volunteers that built RC143 came together was really to save lives. And I guess that, you know, when the first time that we're able to actually in a way save a life, because we're able to forewarn them of their and how contact tracing should do was be able to kind of like forewarn someone who's had probable contact with someone else. And when you know, our first case got herself tested, and she was also she was positive, but because of that she was able to actually get treatment, and she was also able to kind of like isolate themselves. That we felt that we've done what the app was supposed to do. So I'm proud to say that we you know, when that happened, we just wanted to save one life, and we were able to do that. But of course we want to save more lives, right? We want to be able to have more people use this app, because the more people use this, the more effective it becomes. We're happy to say that, you know, there are companies that are adopting RC143 as contact tracing for their back to work programs. We're also happy to say that some local governments are adopting this also to do that. So I think we've connected we connected the dots. We're able to get people who would otherwise not know that they've been in you know, they've had the risk of having the virus, and they would have, you know, gone somewhere and infected other people, or not get treatment. The fact that we're able to get them, you know, to go get tested, to go get hospitalized, to go get isolated, I think the app has done its job. That's why I think I could say that, you know, it's one of the few contact tracing apps that's actually worked for its intended purpose. But we're satisfied then, but, you know, we're not satisfied. I think we want like more people to use it. We want, you know, more LGUs to adopt it, and more enterprises to adopt it, because like I said, you know, our algorithm is based on a network graph theory, and the more people use it, and the more we're connected, the more organizations, more testing centers, then the whole network actually becomes more valuable. So the mission is still there. The mission is still there to save more lives. It's never gonna end, especially now that we're back on lockdown. I think the need for efficient contact tracing, working with governments, working with enterprises, becomes more and more important.
All right, great. Okay, so I think that's all the time we have. I really wanna thank you guys for sharing your time, and please extend our congratulations to your respective teams for volunteering and doing your share in trying to in responding to this crisis, and as Gio said, in helping lives, in saving lives. So with that, we'll conclude this session, and for those of you who weren't able to catch or weren't able to attend, so we will be posting this session to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. So just like our Facebook page, follow our YouTube channel, and join the Product PH group if you like this content and want to learn more and want to network with fellow product people. So with
Jan,
that, I'd like.
Yeah, sorry, Jan. Yeah, I just wanted to again. I'm only one of many volunteers, so I'm the face here. But really, there's a lot of really admirable, brilliant people behind the app. That and the more I'm more touched because they choose to remain nameless, because I did ask them, you should be out there, but they said, we just want to do the work, Gio. So, those actually this is their story and not my story.
Indeed, and I think the same goes for the other teams, and the fact that people are coming together, helping out,
Yes.
becoming keyboard warriors. So indeed, this is everyone. This is the story of the volunteers and how everyone came together to help. So very well put, Gio. All right. So with that, I'd like to thank Johan from Project Scan, uh, Jezza and Miguel from DCTx, and of course Gio from the Philippine Red Cross.
Thank you,
So
John.
really appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Right. Thanks,
Thank
Jel.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys. Okay, so I am going to end the stream. Oy, salamat ah. Thank you guys.
Okay,
Thank you
pare.
very much.
All right, bye.
Thank you.